Craig Conroy's Q&A with Eric Francis sure provided us with answers, but we also still have more questions.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me here today on this fine Tuesday or whenever you're tuning in. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Today, we're going to cruise through the Q&A that Flames general manager did with Eric Francis and kind of dissect his answers and provide more questions to what he's given us, the little crumbs that we have been fed. But we're going to look into all that and then some on today's episode. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your team every day. The Flames have the 9th overall pick, and they also have probably the hottest goaltender in the goaltender market right now. Linus Ullmark and Juuse Saros are thrown in there as well. But I would say that Markstrom is the most likely one to get traded. I have always seen Juuse Saros as the future of Nashville, especially after Pekka Rinne, and I don't think that that's done. However, Linus Ullmark is probably if Markstrom's number one, Ullmark's 1A. I think that all these teams all three of those teams have really interesting goaltending situations, and it'll be interesting and fun to see how it all sort of plays out. But this was a really good Q&A with Eric Francis. It's up on sportsnet.ca, and I will link it in the description box as well. But I kind of wanted to just dissect it and maybe provide some commentary that maybe you hadn't thought of, or you might be thinking the same thing. But the first thing here is Jacob Markstrom has never gone to Conroy and indicated he wants a trade. That's good, I guess. I think that that's important, especially if things don't play out where he gets traded before the start of the season, because then you're not, it's clearing up this the misconception of him wanting to be gone. And a lot of that stems from his comments in his reaction to not being traded by the deadline. And he's never come to me and said he wants out. That's never been mentioned. He's never said that. And again, this could just be a bluffing tactic. We don't know what the truth is there. But I think that the Flames are doing their best to respect Markstrom and his wishes. So I think putting that out there is also kind of fine. It's just to kind of quell the talk of Markstrom not wanting to be in Calgary, and that's the right thing to do. Conroy goes on and talks about it's part of the game, but it does bother me because it's always out there. There's something about the goalie all the time, and I don't think that's fair to the goalie either. I feel more for him because I've been on the other side of this. Everyone wants to speculate and throw things out there, and I don't think it's fair to him. Well, there was certainly a way to avoid this, and that would have been to trade him this past, late winter, early spring. We know or have been led to believe that it wasn't New Jersey or Conroy that wouldn't allow the trade to go through, but rather some higher ups from one side or the other that just would not send this through. I do feel bad for Markstrom because, he made it pretty clear in the beginning that he didn't want any of this in the headlines. And now you have to do a little bit of damage control, and that's fine. But what I did see earlier was this was a really good point. Someone said like Markstrom or Conroy could be saying all this in that he doesn't have to trade Jacob Markstrom to drive up the price. That's always the case, could always be the case as well. I mean, anything's possible. We know that Conroy has kind of laid his cards out on the table before. So maybe he's playing them a little closer to his chest this time around. But the Flames need to cash in on Markstrom at some point and start giving Dustin Wolf reps as their future goaltender. And I think that is true. That's not like an outlandish statement. I think that you really have to get Dustin Wolf in the net and let that be a priority. Trading Markstrom at the deadline would have given you the most value possible. And unfortunately, that just couldn't come to fruition. So that's that. And we have to watch as things unfold from here on out and kind of see what the ultimate price is and who's paying it. But coming up next, we are going to continue through this Q&A and take a look at Cap Friendly being bought and what Conroy has to say about his 9th overall draft pick here on Locked On Flames. And we are just going to take a quick break here, and I'm going to talk to you all about FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals just wrapped up, and the Stanley Cup could be hoisted tonight, and you can bet on all of it at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Tonight, are you taking Connor McDavid 3+ shots on net? Are you taking a Sam Bennett goal? Brandon Montour is supposedly in, so maybe a big game for him. Maybe Leon Draisaitl scores a goal, taking the money line, the over-under, you name it. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at JessBelmosto. Eric Francis asks, you have 2 picks in each of the first 4 rounds. Have you finalized your draft list or could it change on the draft floor? Now, Craig Conroy answers, I think it's close. I think you're still going to have those discussions. Could guys move one way or the other? There's always a little bit of tweaking going on right up until the table. Even when we go back after the first round, when we know who we've got, what are we looking for? What are we looking for? And if we make both picks, what have we got? Is their priority? You don't want to pigeonhole yourself, and we don't want to say this is the list and we're never going to budge off of it, because things do change and it's fluid. I think that that's important to note. It's good that, I would certainly hope every team has a game plan, especially since you have like scouts and people that, really specialize in this, and cap specialists and all this stuff that these people get paid to take care of. Their input should matter here. And it shouldn't just be about what your last name is or who you might be related to or really your NHL comparable and things like that, because I do think that it is very easy to get swept up in that. Speaking of a last name, a powerful last name in Calgary, Sportsnet asks, do you worry about fan backlash if you leave Vegas without drafting Tig Iginla? Conroy says, everyone is going to have an opinion. We pick 9th, and I would love for someone to tell me how the draft is going to unfold because it could go a number of ways. I love that non-answer. I think that that's great. He doesn't allude to one way or another. He says, if someone can tell me, that'd be great. And he is right. There are a number of different ways this draft can go. We have seen Iginla specifically climb up the draft rankings. It kind of felt as if he was situated perfectly in that 10 through 14 spot for most of this season, and then he kind of catapulted himself with his performance in the CHL playoffs. And I think that's it's a fair answer. I mean, you can't just go out there and say, yeah, we're drafting my best friend's kid, because there are realistically 7 other teams in front of you. We know who's going number 1 overall. But I don't think that Iginla is going 3rd to Montreal. But I'm also not entirely sure that he is going to fall to number 9. It would be cool. I know a lot of people kind of go back and forth on, drafting him. And there would be a lot of pressure on him. But I mean, there's a certain pressure on everyone that gets drafted in the first round, especially top 10 pick. So, I mean, thank you for the non-answer, because we truly are just going to have to sit and wait, because after Celebrini, I feel like it's just kind of wide open, except for there's a defenseman that I cannot remember off the top of my head that highly coveted and people want him. Sportsnet asks, what are you hearing from other GMs in terms of possibility of seeing first-round draft picks traded before or at the draft? Last year, most teams you talked to, it didn't feel like they were going to move their picks or they weren't interested in doing that. But this year, I think some teams actually have come out and publicly stated they would be willing to. I feel more teams are open to moving if there's an opportunity to move up or down. What did they get? This year, there are definitely opportunities. That's good. I think this is again, another year post COVID where the players you're seeing come out of the draft weren't, their draft year wasn't necessarily fully impacted by any lockdowns or pauses or anything like that. It was probably their high school. Do these kids even go to high school? They're they were, let's say, 13 and 14 4 years ago. So that's a really good thing to look at when you are looking at what could be different this draft. I think that more teams are seeing flexibility and they're less rigid because there's a little bit more fluidity going into this. Sportsnet asks, can we assume you're interested in collecting more picks? Craig Conroy says, you're always looking to upgrade. As the draft is going along, you have your list, and if there's an opportunity to move up because there's a guy we really like that is still available and you want to make sure you have those conversations. Some teams are willing to move, but you want to see where everybody is at. That's good. I mean, that again, basically another non-answer, but we'll find out in 10 days. The NHL draft is just 10 days away, and that's wild. I feel like we were just starting the season talking about how the Flames had X amount of free agents they needed to sign or trade, and how Craig Conroy has this giant mess to clean up, and it's not even really his fault. He just inherited it, and why Mitch Love should have been chosen over Ryan Huska and all this. Regardless, another season has gone by, and it feels like philosophically the Flames are heading in a much better direction than just we're just going to retool, or we're going to just kind of stick with the group we have. We're not going to make any big changes. And that's okay because, we're a competitive team. They know things have to change. And those first steps have been taken, especially by Craig Conroy in his first year. It wasn't just about re signing players, it was about moving them and acquiring good assets and, of course, that draft capital. And earlier today, it was reported that the Flames are going to be some quote unquote somewhat active during free agency. So that's positive because they're not going to go out. They're not in a position to go out and make a splash, but it's kind of nice to see that they're not going out and at least telling us they're not going to go out and throw a lot of money in term at any free agent, because I think that would just truly be detrimental to what they're trying to build here. And we'll talk more about that, especially, as free agency approaches and as it begins on July 1st. But coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with some off-season updates on our two favorite goaltenders, not named Jacob Markstrom, Dan Vladar and Dustin, or it's just Dan Vladar, and the other is Martin Pospisil. I thought Dustin Wolf was thrown in here, but we will be right back after this, and I want to talk to you about something that is going to make a world of difference in your life, and that would be policygenius.com. A lot of life is unpredictable, but a good life insurance plan gives your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family quick and easy. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance that starts at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Having life insurance is just it is truly that safety net that your family may need. You never know when something could happen. You don't have a crystal ball, and sometimes you don't have that safety net that's not from life insurance. Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Or even worse, it may not come with you when or if you leave your job. Policy Genius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following the show wherever you get your podcasts, and we're here on YouTube as well. Feel free to join in on the discussion in the comment section. Sportsnet I thought that this was, good question here on their end. How has Dan Vladar been recovering from hip surgery, and how is Martin Pospisil doing following that injury that ended his stellar World Championship showing? Craig Conroy says before Vladdy left, he was doing squats and was moving well, and it looks like everything is tracking right on schedule, so that is positive. That's great news. Obviously you want everyone to be healthy, but it's, when you get an update like that on a player that didn't have a stellar year and may be asked to take on more responsibility in the upcoming season, good news. And then with Martin, it sounds like he's good to go. It wasn't as bad as we worried when we saw it. We got lucky with that one, which is positive. Yeah, that Martin Pospisil injury looked like it could have been a lot worse than it is. If you follow him on Instagram, you've seen him out and about without his sling on after wearing that sling in any picture he posted for probably like 2 weeks. So that it's good news. Yeah, you just want everyone to start on on a good note. I posted earlier today on Twitter. I was thinking about the fittest flame competition that the team does at the end of the camp, and this year they're going to have a new champion. Obviously, the player Dylan Dubé won it 3 years in a row, and he is no longer. We are assuming will not be extended a qualifying offer and will become a free agent in 2 weeks. So let's just assume that we're gonna have a new champion. I someone said Jake DeBrusk, and I laughed. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you should, because we do a lot of joking over there, and you know that my DeBrusk to Calgary narrative has been going on for 4 years, and it's just something to think about. And then another person said Coronado. I can absolutely see Coronado come in here and take that title. He is coming in after his first pro season. He has a lot to prove. He needs to kind of bulk up a little bit. He is still a little tiny, and he needs to continue to get acclimated to the professional athlete lifestyle. But I do have a feeling that he would come in and go as far out as he could to prove that he is top tier athleticism on the team. And Sportsnet asks, what have you learned from watching the Stanley Cup? Craig Conroy answers, the depth, the goaltending, the defense, the size of the defense. It just shows you how long and physical the playoffs are. You need guys that can battle through, and you need a lot of depth. Last year, you saw Florida was banged up, and this year, Edmonton is banged up. You need your top players to be your top players, but you also need your support staff to chip in, and Florida's support staff has really chipped in, and that's been the difference in the final so far. Yeah, he's not wrong. I think that it's it really is a team effort. You can't just put it all on McDavid's shoulders or Barkov's shoulders to carry their respective teams to a victory. But it definitely, for Florida, it feels very different for them this year. I think healthy Matthew Tkachuk is a world of difference, and I think having they're still not incredibly disciplined, but I will say they're doing a little bit better than they were last year, and that's also a difference maker. Sportsnet asks about the Washington Capitals buying Cap Friendly and how it'll be cut off to the public access. And they asked about the Flames in-house resources. Craig Conroy says we have something similar. It's probably not as detailed as Cap Friendly was, but very similar. I would say we have 80% of what they have, and there are some tools that we don't have built in. For those of you who may not know, Chris Snow had a lot to do with this behind the scenes kind of operations and tech stuff. So his hands were in the pot with all of that for really up until he passed away. So it is unfortunate that, obviously he's passed away, and Cap Friendly will no longer be there, not just for fans, but for NHL as a resource to them as well. But, you get to kind of see Snow's legacy live on and through the NHL still. And I think that that's great and neat because Chris Snow had he left a mark on a lot of people for his impact, his resilience, and just his brilliance. So it's nice to see that this is going to be used to the Flames' advantage here. But I do think a few things here. Mainly, I think Markstrom is being shopped hardcore. We know that New Jersey is hungry, and it's like when you don't eat all day for Thanksgiving so you can have a nice meal. New Jersey is the person that hasn't eaten all day, and they're ready to gobble up their Jacob Markstrom. And they are easily the team that needs goaltending the worst, or the most, I guess, out of potential suitors. So I do not see a world where he isn't traded either this summer. I really think it's going to happen this summer. Or it could be very much like last year where it's, maybe before the All-Star break. Maybe that happens. I also have a decent feeling about Conroy heading into his first real free agency. Last year, the Flames had no money to spend, so he actually has a little bit of wiggle room this year, and I think how he does in free agency is going to dictate the next few years. So nothing's permanent, but it also tells you what his vision for this team is. And that will do it for today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. We will continue some pre-draft coverage, including some Berkeley Catton talk on tomorrow's show. And yes, until then, stay safe, stay warm, stay dry. I saw that it snowed in Alberta today. So if you're there, I am so sorry. Enjoy your summer, enjoy the daylight, make sure you're subscribed, and have a good day.